beginning of his career, Drake's relationship with women has always been at the forefront of his music. Whether his songs were about going through a breakup, occasionally depicting himself as sensitive, or outright portraying himself as a simp, Drake seemed to genuinely admire women. But over time, things drastically changed until the point he morphed into the self-proclaimed certified lover boy. From venting his feelings of loneliness to an ex on Marvin's Room, through to accusations of rampant misogyny on the 21 Savage assisted Her Loss, even Drizzy's claim that the only woman he loves is his mom on God's Plan was a
I personally think that Drake is the king of the incels, because if he is a very talented person, very talented, can't take that away from him. But every other thing about him, like the way he moves, all these other things, anyone else, like if you stripped away his talent, which would mean you stripped away his money, all this stuff, this dude would be a fucking incel. He would be. Like, I can't think of any really redeeming qualities about this dude. He basically is the same person he was when he first started rapping, and he acts like a fucking child, and he's 37, I think. It's fucking nuts. Like, I think literally his biggest saving grace is how fucking talented he is. If he did not have that talent, if he wasn't able to like be a chameleon for music and sing marginally well, be able to rap very well, and just know how to make hits, know how to surround himself with people to help him make these hits, this dude would be either an incel or fucking borderline. And I think that's kind of why all this shit's coming to light now, because he's getting older and all these women that he pursued are older, so they're like settling down and shit. He doesn't know how to fucking handle it.
A drastic departure from when he was actively trying to settle down. But where the good guy image was once intact and helped skyrocket his career to the top, that's long gone now and replaced with the perception that, as Kendrick said, Drizzy doesn't even like women. In fact, he only values them when it comes to sexual gratification and as a way to have a one-up on his enemies and friends. In short, there's now a belief that Drake has a serious sex addiction, which has basically created the predicament he finds himself in today.
I don't even think it's that. It could be partially that, but I think the bigger issue is more of a power issue. More of a, let me get something, let me hold this over someone. And I think it stems from maybe the way he was treated as a child, or like the way like women not fucking with him when he was younger. Because I see it all the time. I see it with like, you can see it with people you know. Like if there's a dude, or even a woman sometimes, where if they really didn't get any type of like attention from the opposite sex or from whatever sex they were interested in their younger years, and they don't really ever address that, they sometimes will take it out on that opposite sex whenever they get attractive and start to turn into their own. Like they'll start using them, manipulating them, and trying to take advantage of them. And I don't think it's out of a sexual addiction. I think it's more so I want to make you feel how so-and-so made me feel.
Presents himself as like this smart, composed, thoughtful businessman. But you're your friends' girls, you're not them for them, by the way. There's tons of bad. You're not just doing it to get a nut. You're your man. That's what you're doing. It sounds crazy, but that's what it's about. I'm going to do something that I know that I'm going to have over you.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Currently.
And that's so fucking gross. And I don't understand it, because if you have, like, let's say you had a friend, right? And like you had a friend, and like your friend, your girl broke up with her, you broke up with your girl, and your fucking friend slept with this girl immediately afterwards. You'd look at him away. Even if it was a girl that you really like, you dated, but you weren't like in love with, but you shared some time with her. You spent time with her. Like you enjoyed the girl. You enjoyed your time with her. If he slept with her, you're going to feel away. You may not like cut him off, but you're going to feel away. Then he does it again and again and again. You're going to stop fucking with this dude. You'll probably stop fucking with this dude after the second time altogether, because it's fucking weird. The first time you could chalk it up to, well, maybe he had a genuine connection with this girl, or maybe that was just really his type and like he was really into her, something like that. Give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit. Some men won't do that. Some men will. That's to each their own. But I know no men will let that shit slide twice. Ain't no fucking way, because it's no longer about that. It is about you and them. It is about you are doing this to get at me. You don't give a damn about this girl.
When you pattern yourself as a ladies' man, it's really no surprise that you might ruffle some feathers or act impulsively when things don't go your way. Just look at what happened in the aftermath of Drake flying a fresh-faced Ice Spice out to OVO Fest, only to suddenly cut ties with her when it appeared he didn't get what he wanted out of her. Happy to ghost someone in an instant, Drake's objectives with up-and-comers like Ice come into focus when you see how much he prides himself on being a bachelor. So, when he doesn't get his way, his superstardom allows him to move in a way without any consequences, and this behavior
He's cool until somebody tells him no. And I guarantee you the moment a woman tells him no, he goes right back to fucking high school Drake, high school Aubrey Graham. And he hates the way that shit makes him feel. So he cuts them off immediately afterwards.
It was further highlighted in an interview with Angie Martinez, where French Montana basically lifted the lid on how Drake operates.
Yes.
There's people with more reputation than me.
Drake is close, but you and Drake are friends.
Splash Bros. Snipe Squad. You know, he gave me the Snipe Squad thing. 10 rules, 10 snipe commandments. Thou shalt not snipe a bro's ting. Thou shalt never pillow talk or discuss business with a ting. On any import from the United States, Canada, or any other region, thou shalt practice a maximum 3-day export rule to avoid frustration. If you fly anybody in, give them 3 days so you can avoid frustration. 3 days maximum.
With Drake basically retaining the mindset of a man in his 20s, it explains why Drizzy also doesn't care whose toes he steps on, including sniping someone else's ting. Take for instance the story of Naomi Sharon. Unlike Ice Spice, it's believed that she welcomed Drake's advances despite being in an 8-year relationship. To make matters worse, Drake had worked out with her then boyfriend just days before, only to later post an IG picture after the story broke captioned, "Without remorse." Dirty. Imagine
This is gross. This is gross. Oh my God. I'm not even in this and I'm fucking hot. That's disgusting.
having the most beautiful, supportive, and faithful relationship 8 years long with an engagement and wedding plan, her former fiance Jamie's son said. Then this major opportunity comes and a world star calls your fiance to sign a record deal, flies you both over, and then, out of nowhere, all the trust has vanished with knives in your back and in your heart. I am no longer with the person people think I am together with. I am no longer with the 8 years I thought I was together with. With someone like Jamie participating in the music industry at a lower level, Drake clearly had no concerns when it came to trampling over his life to get what he wanted. But even though he got away with just a bit of reputational damage that time, recently, it's become clear that Drake's promise to French Montana about never getting involved with someone else's girl was just talk. Because when you look back, Drake has a habit of bringing women into almost all of his beefs with other rappers. And in the view of one of his biggest supporters and academics, this is where Drake has been a habitual line crosser.
I keep asking people and they're like, yo, listen, man, Drake's a little sloppy with it. All these guys, they share the same crop of girls. It's a thin line between like, yo, these are like the community chicks that we all and yo, you're doing certain to kind of like disrespect.
In Axe View, this has always been a key part of how Drake has operated, long before it led Future to call him a fan on We Don't Trust You. Case in point, just look at why his decade-long feud with CB started.
Imagine how bold Drake was when Drake sends a bottle over there with a note that says, I'm the love of your life. That was supposedly the note. And right then, beef starts.
Oh, yeah. Crazy disrespect. And there's no other way. How else are you gonna fucking respond to that? Like, you send that to somebody and then they fucking pop off and you're shocked? Like, the delusion.
So Drake is in the club
God.
supposedly with Meek and some other people. Drake.
Back when Drake and Chris had some bad blood over Rihanna, the whole thing likely made things awkward at parties, but didn't really spill out onto record or really even enter the public consciousness at the time. But that hasn't always been the case. And much like his dispute over Princess Diana with Future, it was his decision to mess with other people's girls that led his ghostwriting scandal with Quentin Miller to come to light in the first place, in turn creating a narrative that's haunted him ever since.
That's how the whole thing started with even the reference tracks. DJ Drama says, bro, he didn't write that. The guy in my studio in Atlanta, he recorded it and Drake just sang it over. That's how that starts. So two guys who thought Drake their chicks basically created that moment.
But while all of these incidents could have been damaging to his career, if you need to look at how far Drake will push it when it comes to women, look no further than him betraying his very own mentor when he was at his lowest. a story that was brought to light in a bar by Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. The allegations that Drake on Wayne's girl when he was in jail have actually been around for a while, and to Weezy's credit, he's done his best to shoot Drake some bail.
Oh, I wasn't worried about that. That's just how life goes when you locked up. She still be texting me and stuff.
Hoes gonna be hoes, but I couldn't blame Tammy.
You know?
However, this is only one side of the real story that never gets reported, because as Weezy disclosed in his autobiography, this actually took a real toll on him. As a man, he wrote, "I woke up still feeling messed up about the f***ed up day that I had. Hell is what it was. I'm used to arguing with my girl on a daily basis, but finding out that she'd messed with Drake was the absolute worst thing I could have found out." Seemingly happy to backstab one of the people who had done.
Yeah, I mean, it's biting the hand that feeds you. A lot of these dudes, I think, they kind of know what it is with Drake, but the talent's undeniable, and how much money and how much influence he has just off of having hit after hit after hit after hit after hit. It's really hard to completely burn that bridge. Knowing, especially when you know, like, let's say you are not in the best spot creatively, but you need to release some music. You know, if you put Drake on the hook or put him on the verse, your song's gonna pop. So why would you burn that bridge? You can distance yourself from him personally, sure, but publicly you're not gonna do that, because it's hustling backwards to do that. Even as Drake is biting the hand that fed him, which is Wayne. Wayne is the one that gave him the chance. Of course, Drake took that opportunity and fucking ran with it. But I think if literally anybody else would have done that to Wayne, anyone else, he would have eviscerated them. And you probably would have never heard from him again. I think Drake is the only person in Wayne's life that could have got away with this. Just because the amount of talent and influence and the fact that Wayne makes money off of Drake. So it's like, it would be hustling backwards to publicly bash this man.
The most for his career, this would point to the sheer depths of Drake's issues when it comes to his addiction. But as for how Drake's addiction manifested in the first place, there's a couple of theories, but both boil down to the same thing. It's his way of getting back at the tough times in his youth, or proving everyone wrong who doubted that a suburban Jewish kid from Toronto could make it big in hip-hop. And during an in-depth conversation on the Joe Budden podcast, they weighed in on how people's perceptions of him influenced his tendency to forget his loyalties and go after women who should be off limits.
Let's have a real conversation about how talk about Drake behind the scenes and how people in the industry talk about Drake and how they view him. View Drake like he's a corny who grew up not getting no and now he got money and now he's able to afford that, right? Bottom line is, most of these in the industry that have grown up a certain way don't like that this moves in the fashion he moved, because they never had a respect for him.
You just said that a lot of in the industry do that. A lot of in the industry do not try to everybody's. That is not true. You introduce him to your girl, extra friendly, smiling.
And he do that
exchanging
19,
numbers.
30, 40, 50, 60, and 70 times. And it ain't just rappers. The athletes, the actors, the golfers, the executives, the tech people.
While Joe Budden thinks that this is all about how he's been treated in the game and is now trying to get back, others feel it goes deeper than just rap. According to Nadeska and Ebro, it goes back to how he's been treated by the world as a whole.
I think that people have been making fun of him for such a long time that he has really internalized all that. And that dictates the way he probably moves behind the scenes.
Due to social media and people listing all of the people, it was like a list of 40 people that Drake either has problems or has had problems with. Right. The women, the men, the women have decided to be with. At a certain point, you start going, wait, it can't be everybody else, bro.
But above all, it's not just Drake's obvious over-reliance on sex that's the issue, nor even his ruthless backstabbing of his enemies. The real problem is how his behavior and personal circumstances have shaped a negative attitude towards women that threatens to be his downfall. Because from Pusha T to Kendrick Lamar, every time that he's been forced to take an L in a battle is when he comes at someone's spouse or fiance. And in Pusha's view, this goes all the way back to the trials and tribulations of his youth.
Now I gotta dig deeper. What is the real issue with you in marriage? Now I gotta dig in and see, what's your family like? Oh, your dad left you at 5. Oh, I get that. And he never walked you to the bus stop. You're mad about this.
Left without a strong role model and instead given a father who's still chasing girls himself to this day in a slightly creepy way, it explains why Drake thinks nothing of getting involved with someone else's girl, nor discrediting someone else's wife. In turn, creating the sense that Drake may have plenty of relationships with women, but doesn't ultimately respect them. Left embarrassed by his own actions and with his peers now calling him out, Drake's gotten a serious wake-up call to change his ways. Because if he doesn't, this addiction might destroy his career, his legacy, and maybe even his life.
I don't see him changing his ways, to be honest with you. This was a good video, by the way. Shout out to Hip Hop Madness. I personally don't see him changing his ways until it actually affects his bottom line. And even then, because, I mean, at his age, I mean, you kind of are who you are, right? Because in order for him to change his ways, there's a lot of other things. Like, what is he going to make music about? Like, honestly, what is he going to make music about if he changes his ways? Drake's made music about like the same 4 or 5 things since its inception. I don't know what he would write music about if he changed his ways and actually matured. Sure, changing his ways would save his career, but I could argue that if he changes his ways, what career does he have? Like, I don't know what introspective Drake sounds like that doesn't involve a girl or talking about some rich shit. Like, I don't know what that sounds like. I'm not saying that he couldn't do it, but I've never heard the man do it ever. So I just don't see how that would ever play out. But who knows? But once again, shout out to Hip Hop Madness. This video is great.